Welcome back. If you just joined us, you're watching the news at 10, broadcasting on Channel Television live from Lagos. Suspected Boko Haram terrorists have abducted no fewer than 135 people after they raided a village in northern Cameroon. Eyewitnesses say 8 people died in the attack. The militants are reported to have attacked Chakamari village along the northern border between Nigeria and Cameroon. A member of the vigilante group in a nearby village told the AFP that the insurgents attacked Chakamari village before dawn on Tuesday and killed 6 men and 2 women, setting homes ablaze as they went. A soldier at the scene also confirmed the incident. Staying with security, the Nigerian military has been making steady gains on Boko Haram insurgency recently in northeastern Nigeria. Today, members of the civilian JTF said they apprehended 4 of the militants in Malari village in Borno State. This comes 3 days after the insurgents raided other nearby villages in the state.
Traitors, murderers, that's perhaps the way they have been treated by their own people. Boko Haram suspects, the 4 of them locals of Malari village in the Konduga local council area of Borno State. The suspect is said to have been handed over to the military by his own father before he led the military to his fellow suspected felons who were said to be in hiding. When asked who their leader is, he answered, "We have no leader. We are on our own. The others are not with us." The obviously exhausted man pleads for water, as he says he has not had water to drink in 2 days. The suspected outlaws are presented to the governor. For him, the face of evil is gradually being exposed, and a ray of hope has started to shine. Governor Shatima, in a local language, says, "We pray for peace to return to our state. Our people are prisoned, struggling to survive, and now the insurgents have made things worse. It is our responsibility to cater for your feeding needs, and that we shall do, and rebuild our burnt homes by the grace of God." The people of the area have been left in the cold for too long with the deadly attacks on their villages, which has left many of them homeless, hungry, and bereaved. The thought of getting their lives back will be paramount on their minds.
The presidency says it is worried about the frosty relationship between herdsmen and farmers in some parts of the north, a condition that has continued to affect massive food production. The permanent secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture, Mrs. Sonny Echono, told journalists in Abuja that the federal government is creating huge employment among youth through farming, but this can only be sustained if better relationship exists between herdsmen and farmers. Well, let's understand more on the story now. I'm taking you to Abuja, where Gloria Umezoke is with Professor Yusuf Abubakr, the Executive Secretary, Agricultural Research Council of Nigeria. Hi, Gloria.
Well, thank you, Amarachi. And from Abuja, I have with me in the studio Professor Yusuf Abubakr, the Executive Secretary, Agricultural Research Council of Nigeria. Welcome to the News at 10.
Thank you very much, Gloria.
Well, you are the chairman of the committee set up by the federal government to develop grazing reserves and stock routes, of course, to also battle the constant conflict between herdsmen and farmers. What were your recommendations?
First of all, the main cause of these clashes is because the pastoralists take the animals through farmlands and thereby destroying crops. And so if you want to solve the problem, you need to, first of all, find a way of settling them in one place. And secondly, because that will take a longer period of time, you need to also be able to work on a solution for them to still be moving up and down for a period of time. And because of that, the government set up this committee to look at the issue of development of grazing reserves and stock routes. Now, our recommendations, we have short-term, medium, long-term, but the key recommendation is that we need to set up a platform that will implement the recommendations that have been made over the years. We discovered that that was a missing link. And so we proposed the establishment of a national program on grazing reserve and stock route development with a national coordinator and a steering committee to be chaired by the permanent secretary. When you do that, then you are assured that you can channel resources to that program, and also there will be accountability in terms of what is happening and how activities can be monitored. So that's the first recommendation. The second one is already there are existing mechanisms for conflict resolution and also prevention. There is a need to strengthen that committee with the full participation of traditional rulers and also other agencies and appropriate stakeholders. And then the other one is we have about 451 grazing reserves. Out of those, only about 141 are gazetted. So we need to gazette the other ones.
All right, let me come to you on that. One of the recommendations is that the law establishing grazing reserves should be implemented to prevent the frequency of clashes. You know, can you shed more light on this particular law?
This law was promulgated in 1965, particularly with regard to the northern region, because that's where you have the majority of this livestock. And so it was very clear about what needs to be done to establish grazing reserves. And what we think should be done is to enforce that law so that the grazing reserves that have been established should be gazetted, and then the stock routes in particular. Because like I said, you cannot stop the pastoralists from moving up and down automatically within a short period of time. So you still give some time for them to do that. But meanwhile, you need to demarcate the stock routes and monument them so that they know exactly that they will move along this route and then they will not veer off into farmlands to cause the clash between them and farmers.
You see, again, the committee also recommended that if the government set up for the government to get the best of the nation's livestock, a national census, which you also said was done 23 years ago, should be conducted on livestock across the country. How feasible is this?
It is feasible. There are organizations that conduct livestock censuses, and we have within the country we have the National Bureau of Statistics. And so we can either do it locally or we can source that out and then do it in combination with our own people here. But it is essential to have livestock census, because if you don't know the population of your animals, you can't even plan. And like I said, there are other African countries, smaller countries, that have been conducting their livestock censuses every 4 or 5 years. So we need to do that so that we know the population of our animals, and then we'll be able to plan much better.
So going forward now, how best can we improve the agriculture sector?
I think just like we are talking about diversifying the Nigerian economy more towards agriculture, like the current government is emphasizing, we need to also diversify the agriculture itself to look more towards livestock production, fisheries, because the contribution of livestock to the agricultural GDP is about 10%. Fisheries is 4%, and then crops 85%. But the concentration has always been on crop subsector. And I think there is a need for us to also diversify and look at how we can tackle the issue of the livestock subsector. That is why we made a medium long-term recommendation that there is a need to establish a national livestock development authority that will look at other components of livestock production, including commercialization of livestock production and even modernizing the system of the pastoralist. That is moving them from what they're doing now to something like a structured system that the private sector can come in and finance. And that could take time, But I think it can be done. And if we have such an authority, that can actually lead the way towards that.
Professor Abubakr, thank you so much for coming on the News at 10.
Thank you very much. My pleasure.
Well, that's it from the nation's capital. It's over to you in Lagos, Marachi.
Thanks a lot, Gloria. And when the News at 10 returns, Adamawa IDPs get support from Twinning Ovaltine Nigeria Limited. That's in a moment. Please join us again.